tripped over my words a little bit in the last segment. Jeff Tobe is the primary color of Coloring Outside the Lines. I might have been getting nervous. We actually switched sides on the set, so I don't know if I was getting nervous for Jeff's segment, but Jeff's all about creativity in business, and he wanted to showcase the fact that you got to get a little bit outside of your comfort zone, right, every once in a while.
You keep saying you got to put yourself out there, so I thought, I once did a show with Eleanor Shano. I don't know if you remember her.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I made her sit on the floor, so this is tame compared to that.
I appreciate it.
Trying to make you feel a little uncomfortable, Tom.
I ran high school cross country, so my knees are not good. So I appreciate you letting me. So, Coloring Outside the Lines, I've read the book a couple times. My mom read it. We love your book.
Thank you.
I have friends that have enjoyed your book. Where did Coloring Outside the Lines come about?
Well, literally, it came about because it's the first line of a poem that I share with all my audiences. My dad gave me the poem when I was 10 years old. But theoretically, it's the way I've lived my life, and you know that. We've known each other for a while. By the way, I feel like the elder statesman in your show, but maybe I can say, from an early age, that's the way I lived my life, and I was cursed by it, as a lot of kids are. I was way outside the lines, and nobody knew how to handle it. We didn't have labels back then, so they didn't know how to label me, they didn't know how to handle me. But thank God my parents were wonderful people who just really saw that creative side and really harnessed it and got me to use it to my advantage. Right. So.
And having known you for a couple of years now, I know that you're an international speaker, very well, sought after.
Thanks.
What's the experience been like truly traveling all over the world speaking?
It's incredible. I mean, first of all, I get paid to speak. How cool is that, right?
Yeah.
But besides that, just the number of people that you can touch and just the number of people that you meet and traveling worldwide, seeing different cultures, especially when we talk about creativity, because creativity is very different in the Western Hemisphere than it is in the Eastern Hemisphere. So it's allowed me to learn, and I'm just on this constant journey of learning. And that's what I get to learn and teach at the same time.
So what is the Jeff Tobe experience? If I brought you in to speak at Big Brothers Big Sisters, what kind of things will we do? What's the experience like?
Well, Coloring Outside the Lines is really about creative thinking as it applies to the customer experience. And I use the word customer. I speak to educators all over the world. I speak to attorneys. It doesn't matter who it is. I still use the word customer because we have to think internal and external. And it really is about how do I shatter the stereotype of the experience people expect to have with me. When I counsel young kids, it's interesting sitting and listening to your prior guests, especially in recruiting at PPG. Wonderful that Shannon does. But I'm sitting there thinking, when I speak to kids, I always say, how do we shatter the stereotype of the experience that recruiter expects to have with you? Based on a stereotype of what school you went to, where you grew up. Those are the kinds of things that I think young people need to think about now. But bringing me in, it's really about just looking at what you do differently than you have before.
Yeah. What's some of the main advice besides that you give business leaders when they bring you in to speak, especially in a tough economic time? What are you telling business leaders to do?
You know what? It doesn't matter if they're business leaders. It doesn't matter who they are. I talk about perspective. In these times, it's really about, I use an old analogy of looking through your windshield to see what's coming down the road ahead of you instead of relying on your rear view mirrors to see how it's always been done before. And how do I take the perspective of that other person, whoever that is, my customer, the people I work with, the recruiter on the other side of the table? That's what's a key. How do they see me and how do I present myself differently?
Now, you've been on your own for a while, Coloring Outside the Lines, now Infinite Speakers as well. What's your experience been like as a business owner?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you know, I often say I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm just unemployable. And there's a big difference. Nobody ever wanted me. As a matter of fact, I got fired. I think I've told you the story. I got fired from my first job because I was way too creative.
Right.
But, I can't imagine going back. I can't imagine working for anybody because the freedom that the entrepreneurial spirit sort of gets to experience, and not just that, just the entrepreneurial spirit is just a wonderful thing. And when you meet other people, like people, it's just been great. Now there are days I'd love to get a paycheck and have benefits as well, but that's not going to happen.
What about for people that are maybe thinking of starting their own business? What is it like working on your own? Do you ever get lonely? Do you ever miss kind of the structure of having coworkers?
Absolutely, and one of the things that I've always done in business is surround myself with people who can help me grow my business, and hopefully I can help them as well. I formally call them mastermind groups, and you can call them anything you want. But it's really a group of people who understand what you do. The speaking business, for example, is a very lonely business. My wife, God bless her, she knows the business, but still says, go do what you have to do. And it's really only other speakers who understand the world of speaking. And so when I get together with my peers, I always say you need to form those groups of your peers that can help you grow your business.
Now, I'm a member, you recruited me to join your organization, the National Speakers Association, Pittsburgh chapter, which you're now president of.
Exactly.
What is NSA all about?
Well, NSA at a national level is really a professional association of speakers. It's not a speakers bureau, but it really is I kind of balked at it for years because I was thinking, one, why would I want to join a group of my competitors? and two, why would I want to be in a room with 1,700 other egos? You know? But you know what? After about 3 or 4 years I joined, and it increased my learning curve 200%. It really is about the business of speaking, of running the speaking business. But more than that, it's the connections you make in the speaking business. Because for me, I'm a keynoter. And when I keynote and I speak to a group and hopefully do a good job, they're not going to bring me back next year. So they come to me and they say, who do you know?
Right.
Who do you know that we can bring in next year? So it's that networking, too,
yeah,
that NSA offers.
It's been fun, too, just with the Get Involved Power Hour series I have, inviting some people to get involved with that, the different projects that we have going on. It's great to just continue building your network up.
And as you know, we brought in some great speakers. We do it on a monthly basis. So,
honestly, amazing.
International speakers.
International, the one, Philip Van Hooser, #2 on Amazon list for bestseller book. And he wrote me a note afterwards. Just it was such an honor to meet somebody like that.
And international president of National Speakers Association.
Right. Amazing opportunities through the organization. So you're president of NSA Pittsburgh. You were formerly the president of the board of the organization that I worked with for a while. Also the president of the Chamber of Commerce and a recent winner of the Chamber Member of the Year. For people that might be thinking about joining their local Chamber of Commerce, how's that experience been for you?
I got to tell you, I am so pro Chamber of Commerce right now, and not because I was president, and not just my chamber, any chamber. I really believe that a small business person has to have a voice in the community, and you can't do it by yourself. So here you've got an organization that lobbies for you, that looks after your interests in any given community, no matter what the size, and get involved, if I can put in a plug. Truly for me has meant getting involved in my community in so many different ways. But on a business level, it's one of the best moves I've ever made is being involved with my chamber.
Yeah, I think it would be really easy for you, Jeff. I mean, you speak literally all over the world. You come home, you probably just want to hang out with Judy and with Maya and with Jordan. But you've decided to really make a difference in the community. The Times Express named you Citizen of the Year, Chamber Member of the Year. I mean, it's been a really amazing run that you've had out there.
I'm not going to get out of here. My head's going to be too big. I forgot about all these, but thank you.
But when you come back to the community, I mean, you're probably really tired. You've been traveling. I mean, what is it that really motivates you to make a difference also in your community?
My kids. There's nothing else. My kids. And your next guest is a prime example of this, too. I know it. And I got to tell you that my kids have motivated me because just doing the nonprofit that you and I were involved in, getting kids involved, really was so important because I saw my kids had nothing to do in the community. And I thought, I can change that. When I see small business not being represented, I thought the chamber's the way to get involved. So I guess it's very selfish as well. It is. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. People should get involved in things that they're passionate about. So.
I think there are benefits to being involved, if that's tickets to events, meeting great people, new experiences, maybe free food as well. I eat too much free food at events, but there are a lot of nice opportunities as well that come out of being involved and being active.
Absolutely.
I know that you've had, Coloring Outside the Lines in your speaking business for so many years. You also started Infinite Speakers, which is actually your own bureau, which I'm very honored to be part of. How are things going with Infinite Speakers?
It's going better than I expected. About 3 years ago, as you know, I had some health issues and thought I wasn't going to be able to speak anymore. And really it drove me, the only two things I know is I know marketing and I know speakers. So I started Infinite Speakers. And really we don't represent speakers, although you're part of the bureau. We represent our client. And our client tells us who they're looking for, what kind of speaker, what kind of results they're trying to achieve. And so we have access to speakers all over the world. And that's been fun too. I'm a bit of a groupie because it's funny, in your last segment you mentioned Rachel Ray, and I was talking to Rachel Ray's agent this morning because I have a client who actually wants to hire her to come in and speak.
Oh, that's great.
So that's kind of fun for me too.
Absolutely. What have been some of the other kind of highlights of your career, places you've traveled, good experiences? I'm guessing, sometimes I'll speak to 500 or 1,000 people, and that's a big deal to me. I'm sure you've had some big crowds in your life.
I think the biggest crowd I had was the Air Force, actually, in Montgomery, Alabama. It was 6,800 people.
That's amazing.
And all in uniform. And I'm telling them to color outside the lines. And I go, except when you're defending me, because you stay in the lines if you can't have flying that jet. But no, and that was one of the highlights, traveling. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago. Judy and I had the opportunity. I spoke all over the world, kind of in stops. First in Berlin. We went on to Singapore, to Bali, and then on the way home we got to stop up in Canada as well. So, that's memorable. But to me, because it's creative thinking, I get to work with so many diverse groups that's the fun part. Every time I go and speak, it's to somebody different, and it's so much fun.
Great. Well, Jeff, you've had an amazing career thus far, bigger things in the next 10, 20, 30 years as well. But
thanks.
I want to thank Jeff for being here with us today. A true mentor in my life as well, somebody that's been a great person for me to look up to. And I think it's important for all of you, watching at home or on the internet to make sure that you have role models in your life Jeff Tobe has certainly been one of those to me. So I definitely appreciate him for being on the show, all the great work that he's done with Coloring Outside the Lines, the Chamber, NSA Pittsburgh, the different organizations in his community. So thanks to Jeff Tobe. Up next, last but not least, we're going to have Joshua Colburn, upcoming speaker, author, a good guy to get to know. So thanks again to Jeff Tobe. We'll be back in just a minute with Joshua Colburn.